I'm sure you're hearing all about the United Auto Workers Union strike that could start as soon as tonight. So the question is, how would a strike of this scale impact you and me if we aren't one of the about 140,000 people who are part of the union, or if we don't work for one of these American car makers? I'm going to tell you in a second, but first I want to say this video is not about who's right or who's wrong. It's not about what the union is asking for. It's not about what the big three car companies want to give them. This video is going to explain what would happen to the U.S. economy, so all of us, if and when this strike moves forward. So if the UAW goes on strike, it would be the first against an American auto company since 2019. It would be the first ever against the big three automakers all at once. Union leaders have said there would be, at least initially, limited targeted strikes at strategic manufacturing plants. But that could be enough to grind production to a halt at General Motors and Ford and Stellantis, which builds vehicles under the Jeep, Ram, Dodge, and Chrysler brands in North America. Economists estimate a 6-week strike could cost the United States billions of dollars and could cost the U.S. economy an important chunk of financial growth in the gross domestic product report for the fourth quarter if this thing drags on for a few months. This could also impact inflation. We just saw in yesterday's Consumer Price Index report that in August, the cost of a new car was up over the month of July, and it was up almost 3% over August of last year. So if those costs were going up without a strike, what's going to happen to the cost if there is a strike and there are no new cars rolling off the production line? That would dry up the already low supply and drive up car and truck prices. And a strike wouldn't just generally impact the U.S. economy as a whole. It would also impact the local economies where these manufacturing plants are located, specifically in places like Michigan and Ohio and Indiana. Not only would the striking workers lose an estimated $860 billion in wages in just the first 10 days of a strike, that means they wouldn't be taking those wages to spend money in their community. So other businesses that are not even related to cars at all would also suffer. And it gets worse because if the strike continues to drag on, other workers at those vehicle manufacturing plants who are not union members may be furloughed or get fired because the plant would have to close. That then pushes all those people onto the unemployment rolls, which of course, unemployment is paid for by state taxpayers. According to an analysis from the University of Michigan, a 4-week strike against the big three automakers would result in 161,000 jobs lost in Michigan alone, and a long-term strike would cause about 300,000 jobs lost in the state. But the problems aren't limited to Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana. What about all the companies that build all the components for cars, like sound systems? If there are no new cars to put those sound systems in, then the workers at those sound system manufacturers lose their jobs too. See, this is how our supply chain works. It's really a snowball effect. And once you take out a big piece like auto manufacturing, it impacts other businesses down the supply chain line. Some economists fear that if this strike lasts long enough, it could disrupt the delicate balance that the Federal Reserve is trying to keep in their fight against inflation. Now, most experts say this type of strike will probably not cause a full-blown nationwide recession, but it's probably going to hurt.